Last week we learned about place-based lesson planning and including place-based lessons in our classroom, and I found this incredibly interesting just because I moved a lot when I was younger and would have loved something like this as a child in my class, and just learning about the community of where I was and just learning more information because I didn't know a lot, being the new kid at the school and stuff. So that's kind of what I ran with here for my lesson plan. So I'm going to be a student teaching at Marla Elementary School next year, or next semester, in third grade. And so I decided to base my lesson plan off of that dynamic. So this lesson plan is going to span over the course of like 3 to 4 days, depending on like how long the teacher wants to draw out this lesson plan, because I did include writing in it, and like having the students include like a rough draft and then a final draft, and I know that might take a couple days for students to do, maybe even like an entire week, but I dedicated 1 hour a day to it for about 4 or 5 days. So the standard I chose, the social studies standard that I chose, was relationships among people, places, ideas, and environments are dynamic. The student will use his or her understanding of these dynamic relationships to create personal, community, state, and or national narrative. An ELA standard that I found that went along with this was write narratives to develop real or imagined experiences or events using effective techniques, descriptive details, and clear event sequencing. So my essential questions are: what kind of communities are you in? What is the importance of a community and different community organizations? Are you involved in any organizations as of right now? And are there any organizations that you have heard of in the city of Manhattan? These questions I feel like would be pretty easy for a third grader to talk about, because at this point they have already been introduced to what a community is, and so they can kind of like use their prior knowledge to remember what a community is, what communities that they might be a part of, and so on and so forth. I have 2 lesson objectives. One of them is students will be able to create a narrative story that goes along with a community organization that they find on the school's website. That'll tie into my lesson plan, as you'll see further along. And students will be able to visualize why community organizations are so important to the community that they are a part of and the role that they play within that community. How I will assess my students is I will informally assess the students when they are doing whole group discussions, making sure that they are contributing to the best of their ability and not veering off topic. I can do this by walking around the classroom, visiting different table groups, and seeing that each person is contributing to the conversation. This is very informal. It's just a way for me to assess that students are understanding what we're starting to talk about. Another way that they'll be assessed is through their overall writing piece, and I will go over that towards the end. So to prepare for the lesson, students will already know the basics of what a community is. I'll start off by asking them questions that they will be able to answer based off of prior knowledge. I'll do my own research on Marla Elementary School page so that I know what is on the page and figure out what students might talk about in their narratives. I will also provide the students with a previous narrative piece that they will be able to reference and start to gain their own ideas from, because I know from a personal standpoint I always like to see an example before I start my own. I will start by asking them what they think a community is, basically going over the 4 essential questions that I posed. They'll talk to their group and then we'll share as a whole. So for the basis of the lesson, Students will be creating a narrative that goes along with something that is happening in our community. To do this, I will have the students use iPads and laptops, or laptops, whatever one that they have, and they will be doing research on the USD 383 website. They will go to community resources and then community information for students and families, and on there is a list of different organizations that Marlatt is partnered with and recognized, and so those organizations will go along with a lot of student-based activities, so students are learning a lot about different things that they could do in the community. They are going to write a narrative based off of this, and kind of incorporate that organization into their narrative. This will take a couple of days. It'll include a rough draft and a final draft, and between the rough draft and final draft, students will also be grading each other's rough drafts, making sure like grammar, sentence structure, and everything like that looks good. I'll be grading them on 3 different sets of criteria, which I included in the rubric. One is they included a City of Manhattan organization, 2 is they wrote in a form of a narrative, and 3, they used correct use of grammar and spelling. This is an overall great activity to have students do because they're learning about what is in their community and what they can be a part of in the future in their community, and it is something that I would have wanted to know as a student in elementary school, and I'm sure that they will benefit from this information. Thank you.